Dixie here. Today I want to answer some questions that I have received about food and resupply along the Appalachian Trail. I have gotten so many questions on this topic that I decided to go ahead and kind of combine them all in one video. Mainly the questions I've gotten range from like, what do you do with your pack while you're in town, to what do you eat on the Appalachian Trail, do you count calories, how many pounds per day should you have in your food bag of food, and just all kinds of things in between. So let's go ahead and get started. When I first started researching food and the Appalachian Trail before my through hike, I was mainly concerned about how much food am I going to have to carry in between two different towns. So pretty much you're going to reach an opportunity to resupply every like 3 to 7 days max until you hit the 100-mile wilderness. And a lot of folks that are going northbound are like already freaking out about the 100-mile wilderness, but things will change so much for you by the time you get there. You're going to be faster, you're going to be stronger, and it's not going to take you as long to go through the 100-mile wilderness as you might think. Now, if you're SOBO, and even if you're NOBO, they do have services from the hostels that are nearby the 100-mile wilderness and everything that can bring you food drops like halfway into the wilderness, so they can like leave you food drops. There are a lot of forest roads that go through there, so it's really not quite as remote as you might think. So look out for those services if that's something that you might be interested in. Again, I can't recommend AWOL's guidebook highly enough, the AT guide, for all of that information, different services and hostels all throughout the trail. So check that out. So when you get to a crossing to go to town, how do you actually get into town? And do you take your pack into town, or do you like leave it stashed somewhere while you resupply? Okay, so I always took my pack with me to town. And the way that you get to town most of the time, unless the trail goes directly through a town, is to hitchhike. Now, I did a video on hitchhiking and trying to, be as safe as possible with that, but that's just kind of a reality of the trail. A lot of people are like, take an Uber, but there isn't always an Uber because you're in like small towns and like rural areas. So sometimes you can take shuttles. It's better to hitchhike with other people, but anyway, you hitchhike to town, take your pack. Now, when you get to the grocery store, the gas station, or wherever you're going to do a resupply, you will kind of get the idea of what to do with your pack because there will likely be other through hikers there. If there aren't, you can, what I did a lot of times is throw my pack in my buggy and push it around the store with me, or wear it if you want to. Some people did do that. But anyhow, most of the time I throw it in my buggy, and if somebody's not comfortable with it, they'll tell you to leave it by the front door. A lot of times there will be other hikers around, and you're gonna strangely grow to trust these people because they have their own stinky gear and they don't want your stinky gear to have to carry more. So I never had to deal with like theft on the trail or from other hikers, because your stuff is gross to them and it has your funk all over it, and they don't want to carry more of gear that they already have. So a lot of hikers will just watch out for each other. So you may see like an area of designated, like this is where your pack goes, especially like at restaurants and things like that. But people are looking out, so I mean, you do have to be kind of trusting, unless you can find a better system. But I would always also, when I got to a grocery store, something that I wasn't staying at, I would go and plug my electronics like behind a vending machine, and you become like ninja status finding outlets. So I would go plug those things in and let them be charging while I was shopping. So what happens when you get to a town that doesn't have like a big grocery store and only has a gas station? Well, a lot of the little businesses along the trail have capitalized on the opportunity to sell to through hikers. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? If you had a gas station and day after day folks were coming in and saying, excuse me, do you have any ramen noodles? Excuse me, do you have any pasta or peanut butter? You're probably going to start stocking those things, right? I mean, you'd be a terrible business person to not do that. So they've pretty much capitalized on all of that, and I'm not saying that you'll have like a plethora of options, but you'll have enough to get you by to the next town if you do come across that situation. In my bounce box and food drop video, I talk more in detail about some of the towns that you may want to send yourself something, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about sending yourself food drop. Now, how much food should you have in your pack, and how many calories are required, and how much are you going to be burning? Of course, it's different for every person, but I'm going to be honest with you. People might calculate that before they get to the trail, but I never knew a single person on the trail, at least to my knowledge, that calculated any of that. The girls are going to lose weight if they have weight to lose, but at some point you kind of balance out your weight. Now the guys, they're going to lose a lot of weight, and it's more important for guys to try to keep the weight on, really. I started out pouring olive oil in my food just to try to add, some extra calories, but mainly you just eat as much as you can. You eat if you're hungry, and if you start noticing as a guy like, hey, I'm really dropping too much weight, then, you can start trying to add some things like olive oil or something like that that is high in calories to your diet to try to, you know, offset that weight loss. I've heard it approximated that 2 pounds per day is what you need in food. I don't exactly know where that number came from as far as that number and the calories that you need per day. You can find a plethora of information online about that, but again, I never once weighed my food. I never really stressed over the calories or anything like that. Once we get into the food, I'm actually going to weigh what I would say would be 3 days of food for me and see if it comes up to that approximation of about 2 pounds per day. So what in the world do you eat on the Appalachian Trail? Well, the simple answer is pretty much anything you want to. As long as it can sit on a shelf and not rot, you're good to go. And then sometimes you can have some of those things that will rot, but we'll get into that. So the main thing you've got to decide is, am I going to cook while I'm on the Appalachian Trail or am I not going to cook? I've had people ask me, you know, is it crazy to like not want to carry a stove and just eat things that I don't have to cook? No, that's not crazy at all. And the reason that a lot of people do that is, one, to save time, you know, like not cooking saves time, and then two, to save weight, so you don't have the weight of your stove and your fuel can and all of that. You know, if you really want to be like ultralight, or maybe you're carrying something else that you care about more than the stove. For me personally, having a hot meal at the end of the day, especially when it was cold, was such a morale booster. And I'm a coffee addict, so in the mornings, like, I have to have my coffee before I can even like think about that I'm in existence, you know. So for me, it was not a question. I definitely was going to cook, but for you, it may not be that big of a deal. The thing that I would watch out for if you decide not to cook is, you know, if your whole point is to save weight, then make sure that you're not selecting foods that are much heavier than foods that are dehydrated and meant to cook, like pasta and rice and things like that. Because, you know, your bagels and your pita and those types of foods are going to be heavier. And then you might not end up saving weight in the long run. So I'd actually like sit down and kind of figure it out if that's why you're deciding to not carry a stove. But if you're going to cook, I want to go over what a typical day on the trail looked like for me. So starting out on the approach trail, I think I had 6 days of food total. And I estimated that it would maybe take me about 5 days to get to nil gap, like at most. I was just, you know, I had no idea how many miles per day I'd be able to do because it was my first overnight backpacking trip. So it's better to have too much food than not enough, for sure. So I always tried to aim for, you know, whatever mileage I estimated I would do plus 1 day of food. So I had about 6 days of food, and, you know, you'll really get better at estimating how much to buy. At the beginning, you'll probably carry too much, but again, it's better to have too much than not enough, and there might be other people who don't have enough and will be happy to take some of that food off of your hands. Another concern I had in regards to food was hiker hunger. So what do? You know, if your hiker hunger hits and you're in the middle of a span of trail and, you know, you don't have enough food to get you to the next town, that's probably not going to happen. Hiker hunger, I mean, it hits when it hits, but you're going to know it, and I mean, it's kind of a transition. You just start noticing like, wow, I'm really hungry, you know, and you feel like you could just eat forever. But it's not like one day you're eating like a mouse and then suddenly you're eating like a bear. So, I mean, there is, you know, somewhat of a transition, and you'll adjust for that as you go. One other concern that I received that kind of ties into this topic is, how much cash should I carry on the trail? Or, you know, should I take credit cards to resupply with, and just kind of like what is paying for stuff like on the trail. So when you resupply, you're going to be shopping at gas stations, grocery stores, hostels that for the most part accept credit cards. Now, it doesn't hurt to have some cash on you in case you do go somewhere that accepts cash only, or if you want to like split laundry in town with other hikers. But most of the places you're going to are going to have ATMs. I think there was only like one place that I stopped at and I had lost my debit card and all I had was a credit card. I had no cash, and they accepted cash only. They had an ATM, but you know, I didn't have it set up to where I could get cash from my credit card. So anyway, luckily I had become friends with people by New Jersey and somebody, you know, spotted me. So it's really not anything to stress over. I think I carried like $50 at the most on me, you know, while on trail in cash. But probably closer to like 20. So just for the fun of it and to like really give y'all a good idea of what I would eat for 3 days on trail, I I decided to go on a little shopping spree at Walmart last night, pretend, you know, I was back in the mindset. I figured it'd be good exercise for the PCT. So I will show y'all what I bought for my 3-day imaginary backpacking trip. So for breakfast on this 3-day journey, I purchased a variety pack of great value oatmeal. Now you'll notice that this is 10 packets and I only eat 2 each morning. So this is extra, right? That's going to happen on the trail sometimes. If you've got 3 days to the next town, you know, and you can't get a 6-pack of oatmeal, you're going to get the 10 packet. So you can either kind of pitch in with other people and split things, which is really nice so you have more variety, or you just go ahead and get this and leave some in the hiker box, or tote some and have it roll over to the next town. And next, to get some more calories in and some supposed vitamins, I love to eat these, or actually drink these, instant breakfasts, and I would drink 1 packet a morning and then mix 2 of these instant coffees with that. So maybe half a packet with this, that's 1 cup of coffee, eat breakfast, and then have the second half of the packet and then another one of these. So 2 of these per day, 1 of these per day. And again, with this, there are 10, so I'll either have to give 2 away or, you know, just tote extra weight. If you weren't going to cook breakfast, if you decided not to take a stove, one thing you could have for breakfast would be like dried cereal or Pop-Tarts or maybe powdered donuts. Oh my god, I love donuts on the trail. After breakfast, it was always time for a bar, so either Kind bars or maybe Cliff bars, just something like that, something else to kind of keep you going. Pretty much snack all day, so the other snacks that I liked were like peanut butter, crackers, or fruit, especially dried mango. What's nice is when I could split snacks and share them with other people. So like I would buy a box of these, somebody else might buy Wheat Thins, somebody else might buy chips, and then we would just have a bunch of Ziploc bags and like split them all up. Ziploc bags are your friend. For this 3-day journey, I also have fruit snacks, and then my main morale booster, la da 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 da. I don't even crave these off trail at all, but on trail, these make the difference in like snapping during a bad moment. Maybe I'm a diva. I didn't always cook at lunch, but when I did, I would cook ramen noodles, preferably Oriental flavor. With every lunch and dinner, I always try to have some kind of meat, so I got sick of the same old thing and I ended up getting Spam. So for this 3-day journey, I have chosen Spam and ramen noodles for each lunch. For my 3 dinners, I'm gonna go with Alfredo pasta sides, probably my favorite. Then some quinoa, and I'm gonna spoil myself one night and go with lasagna with meat sauce. Yummy. For my meat source, I have chosen tuna. And some people get crazy and like mix their tuna in with their meal. I never did that, I just ate it separate, but hey, you do you. Some alternative meat sources for this may be pre-cooked bacon, pepperoni, dehydrated ground beef, or summer sausage. I know some of these things should potentially be refrigerated, but when it's in the cooler months, you'll probably be fine. If you decide not to cook for lunch and dinner, you can actually soak rice and pasta and stuff like that in Ziploc bags for a while and eat it cold. Or you can do things like pita with peanut butter or bagels with pepperoni. I mean, you can really get creative, but again, watch that those foods aren't heavier than what your stove would be, since, you know, you're trying to save weight and all. So how in the world are you going to fit all of this stuff into your pack for 3 days or more, and your sleeping bag and your everything? Well, because you get Ziploc bags, like I said, they're your friend, and you're going to take this and open it and dump these into a Ziploc bag, or open that and let the air out, and same thing, you'll throw all of these boxes away, and you know, maybe even these would slim down, maybe not, but potentially in a Ziploc bag, and you'll just really get good at compressing this stuff down and minimizing how much space it takes up. So that's my food for a 3-day journey. Pretty much. That's the baseline. I know a lot of y'all are going to be like, but Dixie, that's so unhealthy, you know. And it is junk food. And generally, I try to eat pretty healthy. And when I started the Appalachian Trail, I told myself, I'm going to eat healthy. I don't care what people say. I will never crave all that junk food. And then I got out there and saw what it was really like and realized that my body became like a machine, and I needed, you know, carbs to kind of keep it going. I needed the fuel. I started craving Snickers. Like it got to where like I had to have that food, and I, you know, wanted to sit and eat a whole bag of powdered donuts. I mean, it was kind of crazy how much I could really eat, but like I said, you feel it working off. Like you eat it and you automatically feel it go. So although you're not really eating healthy, you're not going to have to worry about, you know, getting fluffy and collecting it while you're out there. Now, I agree that there isn't much nutritional content in that food, so there are ways to kind of add some nutrition to your diet. First of all, you could forage. There are things that come into seasons while you're out there, fruits and different greens or mushrooms and things like that. I did do a little video on some of my favorite things to forage, so y'all can check that out. But if you're not really into that kind of thing, you can pack out fruits and vegetables from town. So especially when it's cool, a bag of spinach will last you a while. Avocado was something I really like to eat. I mean, there are all sorts of things. You just have to watch it breezing in your pack. Now, those things are heavy, but sometimes, you know, it might be worth it to you. Probably the most lightweight option is to dehydrate the stuff ahead of time. It's just that then you're going to be tied to, you know, a certain place at a certain time to go pick up a package that somebody has sent you with those dehydrated foods. Some of them you might be able to buy in different towns, especially if they have like health food stores. That's not extremely common, but that's going to be way more expensive than if you do it at home yourself ahead of time. I really liked dehydrating ground beef and sending to myself, and I actually have a video on how to do that. And it's got the recipe and all that, and it's really, really good. I mean, I had folks all the time trying to get my ground beef or trade me stuff for it, and I was like, not happening. So, there are ways to kind of spice things up and add a little nutrition to them. I like putting dried fruits in my oatmeal, and then vegetables and pretty much anything. Especially red beans and rice, and throwing some dehydrated okra in it. That was really good. Also, you know, you can take supplements, vitamins, and things like that. One thing that I really like to do was add this Vitamineral Green to my Propel or my Gatorade, and you know, I tried to replenish my electrolytes while I was out there, you know, sweating to death. So this stuff doesn't necessarily taste wonderful, but mixed with these, you know, it kind of covered up the flavor. So there are all sorts of options, and there are probably people who are a lot healthier than I was on the AT, so they may have better resources for you, but that's just what I did. And finally, you know, when you're in town, you can try to eat as healthy as possible. You're going to want to go to a town and eat like all of the pizza that they have, but while you're eating all of the pizza, you know, save a little room and have a salad, like a spinach salad, or you know, eat some asparagus and some broccoli and carrots and whatever, you know, just eat some vegetables and fruits while you're in town, and try to kind of make up for your crappy diet, you know, while you're in town. So I was kind of a weirdo, or I am kind of a weirdo, and I like to separate like my breakfast, my lunches, and my dinners in separate bags, and then either my snacks would be loose, or, you know, they would also have their own bag. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to break down these boxes and put all of that stuff in Ziploc bags. Alright, so here we go. Like always, my snack bag is ginormous and the most heavy one. And I did put those Pop-Tarts in here as a snack, because those are going to snack on. Just so we're clear when I weigh all of this. This is my dinner bag. This is breakfast because it looks like the sun. And then lunch. Alright, now time to put this stuff in my food bag. And to be fair, I already weighed my food bag, and it is 3.55 ounces. Alright, moment of truth. I've got it to pounds and ounces. So for 3 days of food, it should be, what, times 2, 6 pounds. And we've got 8 pounds and 12.8 ounces. Now again, I do have a little bit more oatmeal in here, and more instant breakfast than, you know, what I need for the 3 days. So all things considered, I have plenty of food if you go by the 2 pounds per day rule. So this food bag is 15 liters. I got this one from Academy. I can put a comparable one in the show more below, a link to it. This one easily held 5 days of food, 6 days of food for me. So one about this size should probably do you fine on the AT. Well, I hope y'all found this helpful, and maybe I'll at least help you calm down about food a little bit. Now keep in mind, if you're a dude, you know, I'm a little scrawny chick. This was supposed to be for about 3 days of food. I could be going a little heavy on snacks because I still have my hiker hunger in mind. Maybe. Again, better to have a little bit too much than not enough, but it's really nothing to stress over. Like, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna work out. You'll get better at selecting how much food you need, and you know, really this is more than 3 days of food, even though that's what I aim to get, because just, you know, the way the packaging works out. If y'all have any questions in this video that I did not answer, feel free to comment below. And also, I created a group on Facebook. It's called Homemade Wanderlust Backpacking Forum. If you have a question about the AT or the PCT, there are veteran thru hikers in there from those trails, and actually from some of the other long distance trails. I'm not sure about the CDT. Don't know if we have any triple crowners in there, but we will. Anyway, y'all can request to be added to that group and I will approve you. And then you can ask in there and there will be other opinions and, you know, we can bounce ideas off of each other because I'm just trying to build a community here around this channel where we can all help each other out, and that's just the best way to communicate amongst everyone. So find that group on Facebook. I'll actually have a link in the show more below for that group, and also for things that, you know, I shared in this video today. So anyway, again, I hope that this was helpful and we will see y'all next time. Okay, so I am here at Amicalola State Park, and there's this nice little compartment overhead, so that's the opening, where you can put like a headlamp.